Hello, I'm David DeCosmo. Welcome to ECTV Live. I'm joined today by Gary Drepik from the Lackawanna and Wayne County United Way campaigns. I don't know how Lackawanna and Wayne managed to get together, but I do a common border, I guess.
It is, and a common border with a lot of shared programs. So we are, I want to say now, almost 15 years as Lackawanna and Wayne. And it's a great partnership.
It is, and every time we've had you on, I know we've gone over the history of it, but I think it's very important to do that because I go back to the days, when it wasn't United Way. There were all sorts of names in various communities, but you've evolved from that.
Well, and for your viewers, I want them to know that we did not practice this or set this up, but that's the perfect question because this year marks our 99th year in this community.
Is that right?
And in the 1920, 1921, we will be celebrating our 100th anniversary. So you'll be seeing an awful lot more of activities going on out there. But it's a true grassroots organization. It actually began in 1921, where a group of Kiwanians were coming back from a convention, and they were on a train, and they started talking about this thing that was going on in Denver, which was an organized community campaign to help nonprofits and help individuals in need. And that's where we can trace our roots back to. And we've evolved from that was the community chest, and then from community chest, it went to Red Feather Campaign.
Red Feather Campaign,
and then from Red Feather, it went to the LUF, the Lackawanna United Fund, and then around the early 80s, it became United Way, and we've been United Way ever since.
Well, it's an important organization, and I'd like to bring you in because these days people are besieged with requests. As a matter of fact, Gary, one of the real problems today is the requests that are coming now by robocall from, you don't really know.
Yes, and that's half the, and this is what I always tell people, and again, contributing to any organization is a personal, it's a personal thing. People are affiliated or attached to, animal welfare rights, environmental, or whatever it is, and whether it's United Way or whether it's another organization outside of United Way, I always tell people, make sure you check. You can go online very easily. There's a place called Charity Navigator, and they are the watchdogs for all viable charities in the country, tens of thousands of them. And all you have to do is go in and type in the name of the charity, and it will give you all of the information, where the money goes, how it's dispersed, what their what the rate of return is to the community and stuff like that. Because it's so easy with like GoFundMe pages right now, which GoFundMe are wonderful things, but there's no check and balance. So any one of us can go out there and put a GoFundMe out there and say, I need money for XYZ. So I always tell people, when you make the decision to give to a charity, go out and check that charity. Make sure it's doing the work that you want to do, and I always add the caveat, make sure it's doing the work in your own backyard.
Yeah, I know that one of the concerns about the robocall is it may come from, I'm going to pick a hypothetical here because I don't want to put a bad light on any particular organization, but it may come from an organization that claims they're calling on behalf of, what's the latest one we got? A police organization.
Oh, yes.
Now, the police don't solicit money.
They've hired a firm
to do that. But in hiring the firm to do that, they've got to pay the firm.
Yep.
So if they're getting $1 from you, so much of that dollar has to go to pay the firm that called you.
Well, and I'm going to tell you, these charitable phone callers love to get me because I kind of go through the questions.
What do you do?
Well, the first thing I ask them is, number one, we're calling, and again, I hate to pick on a chair, but we're calling from the Fraternal Order of Police. We would like to know if you'd like to donate X amount of dollars. First question is, are you with the Fraternal Order of Police? And then they would give you a little bit of a running around. No. Are you a police officer? Are you from the Scranton area? Are Wilkes-Barre area, whatever it is? And they finally say, well, no, we're a firm. And they will tell you, we're a firm that's been hired. All right, my next question to you is, what is the rate of return back to the community? In other words, what is your administrative cost? And the last time I had this person on the phone, she said to me, we're very proud to report that 10% of everything that we raise goes back to the community. I said, then you're telling me if I give you $1, you keep 90 cents of it, and 10 cents goes back to the cause? Click, the phone hung up.
But that was accurate.
That was accurate. So that's why I truly advise people, if you're giving to a charity, if it's United Way, if it's Red Cross, or if it's Save the Whales, whatever it is, check it out first. Make sure that it is a viable charity.
Does United Way use phone solicitation?
No. United Way does not do. The only time that we would do phone solicitation is amongst our own list. You know, like I guess I could say within our family.
Okay.
You know, and the reason we would do that is, like, I would send you, for example, a mailing, and maybe it's getting close to the campaign and we didn't hear from you. You may then receive a phone call from, but you will know the person who's calling you.
I see.
So it's not like you're getting a call from Upper Slobovia somewhere.
Yeah.
It could be like your next door neighbor, one of our volunteers.
Boy, and now that I think of it with this question, and I ask these things for the protection of the people who are watching, but now that I think of it, your questions that you pose to a telemarketer, as it were, are so direct that they have to answer them.
Exactly.
Or hang up on you.
Yep.
And now you're getting solicitations via computer as well.
Yep.
Which you can't really check on very well at all.
Right, and the thing is too is we all have our cell phones now, and now we're all getting these strange numbers coming across. On my way down here today, I received a phone call from Iowa. Like I said, it popped up with this number, and it listed Iowa. Well, I don't know anybody in Iowa. I'm not going to answer that call. You know, but once or twice, what I've done, just for the heck of it, I've done a redial to see who it is, and as soon as you redial, the phone's disconnected, because what they're doing now is with technology, they jump from different numbers. They can jump from this number to that number to that number. And the best, my absolute favorite, are now they're using your own area code. So you can see a 570 pop up
and
there.
you assume it's
right.
local.
Exactly right. And then when you answer it. But again, and I guess for a little bit of shameless promotion here, when I mentioned Charity Navigator, I very strong, for years and years and years, I've been trying to push people to that web, and they have a website that's out there, and there are thousands, tens of thousands of charities that they review every year, and they are a nonprofit, and they will not accept donations from the organizations that they're monitoring.
Right.
So it's kind of a really neat thing. We were informed out of the clear blue sky, and I wish I could tell you that you know, we politicked for this, but we didn't. I received a letter from Charity Navigator congratulating us on 8 years. We've been 8 years a 4-star charity.
Wow.
We're one of 7% of all the charities in the country that have attained that for a complete 8 years, and we're #1 in Pennsylvania.
Congratulations!
Yeah, so we're
wonderful.
We've had, thanks to Lamar, we've had some billboards out there and stuff trying to set up. But it shows the transparency, and it shows the work that we're doing in the community. It shows that the money that is contributed to the community goes right back into the community for services.
How does an agency qualify to become one of the agencies under the umbrella of United Way?
Well, that's another really interesting question. I mean, and the times have changed so much anymore. We used to have, there was a point in time in our existence where we had a finite group of agencies. So individuals came in for membership, and the way they would come in was through what we would call a grant program. So they would do like a 3 or 4 page application.
Right.
The grant was no more than $5,000 or $6,000, and it was for 1 year, and that was kind of our, I want to say, our engagement part of the thing. We see if you're going to do what you say you're going to do, and see what you're going to do with the community. If at the end of that 1 year process, our volunteers, you know, thought, yeah, you are making an impact and you did do exactly what you said you're going to do, they can then come in for full membership. They make the application into full membership, and then they become part of the United Way member agencies. But we no longer have member agencies, we have partner agencies. And the reason,
what's the difference?
Well, the reason I say that is we have now been able to, because of everything that's going on in the community, What I always tell people is if you go back in United Way history, you will see that at one time we funded a place over in West Side that was called the Home for the Friendless. Now, how would you like to go to the Home for the Friendless? But anyway, over the course of years, of course, there was no need for that facility, so that facility kind of went away. And if you look at our list, there's a bunch of different agencies that during their day they were doing a great work, but as time goes on, problems change. So what we continually do, and we as a staff, but mostly we as a group of volunteers, are continually looking at the community to say, okay, what's the new emerging problem? What's coming up?
So you're trying to keep up to date with, in other words, 20 years ago, homelessness would not have been a problem around
Exactly.
here. Right now it is.
Right now it is. And I'll tell you another problem that's kind of like the underbelly that people aren't looking at. We have one of the largest per capita senior populations in the country. We are now working with a collaborative group of people, and let me back up a little bit to go back to the whole agency thing. When anyone looked at United Way, they always thought money. Oh, they're going to give us money, or we're going to collect money, or something like that. We've now gotten to a point where we are more collaborators and partner builders. So we will gather a group around the table, and we won't talk money. We'll say, here's the problem in the community. What are we doing right now? What are you and you doing to help solve that problem?
I see.
Let's pool our resources and let's do a program or a service that we all might be doing pieces of it now, but let's pull it all together. And then at the end of that process, we'll sit back and say, okay, well, we need an extra X amount of dollars to make that happen. So that's when the United Way funding will come in.
I see.
We right now, in fact, when I leave here, I have a meeting with the Area Agency on Aging, because we're one of the unusual United Ways that deal with and work very closely with our governmentally funded services like aging. We have a close partnership with aging because the two of us are looking at what can you do to solve to help seniors in the area.
Sure, with that growing number of senior
Right.
citizens, you have the problems that go along with that.
Exactly. So I think what I call the new United Way, but the new United Way is maybe 20 years now or 15. What we've been trying to do is, rather than looking at, and this is not to disparage any agency, but rather than looking at the same old, which is what I always used to say, and people hate when I say this, we were experts at putting Band-Aids on gaping wounds. You know what I mean? What I want to do is solve the wound.
Yeah.
Is to say, okay, how can we help the individual? How can we help the family that's right in the middle, right? Like one disaster away from going back into poverty or something. Like, what is it that we can do to move them to the next level? So that, for me, is the exciting part of United Way.
And you've got to monitor these areas extremely closely, and because situations can change very, very quickly.
Oh, they change overnight, and we are. And again, I'll tell you, the meeting that I'm going to after this is to talk about senior isolation. What we're finding out now is that there are many, and it's again the hidden population. There are many seniors in this community that whose spouse may have passed away somewhere along the way, whose family has moved out of town. Maybe they have a son or daughter, but they're living in California or God knows where, and they see them on occasion. They may call them once a day, but they're still in their home by themselves, maybe getting out to go for a walk. Well, all of the statistics.
And neighbors aren't what they used to be.
No,
where they would
at
check
all.
on one another.
Not in the least. I mean, we all lock our doors anymore, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I remember the days when my screen door was open all night long during the summer. But all of this senior isolation also leads to a whole host of other problems. It leads to depression. It leads to there are some suicidal tendencies. It leads to ill health. And what we're trying to do now with this group is to say, okay, how can we combat the senior isolation? How can we make sure that somebody is popping in on them at least a couple of times a week, not only popping in on them, but saying, come on out. Let's take you to the mall. Let's take you to a walking trail. Let's take you, there's a great gardening program that is going on at the greenhouse project. Let's all go up there for a couple of days. So it's trying to engage the senior population a little bit more and bring them back into society.
Well, that's a real challenge, but I can see
Really
where
is.
that would be one of the top needs now.
And then you look at the flip side of it, and I'm more on the social side than the financial, but I have to be the financial. You look on the flip side of it and look at the money that you would be saving from emergency room visits if you can improve the health
Sure.
monitor. We have a program that's kind of tied in with that, that's run right out of the United Way office. It's called, we actually have two of them. One is called TIPS and the other is ROAM. TIPS is Telehealth Intervention Program for Seniors, and ROAM is the Adult Older Monitor. Wait a minute, ROAM. It's adult, well, we do the same thing. All these acronyms, right? But basically what we've done is we've partnered with Area Agency on Aging, and we have volunteers, trained volunteers from the University of Scranton, students who come in, Penn State University, and Lackawanna College. And we train them they're trained in the use of this monitoring equipment. So we go out 3 or 4 times during the week to senior citizen centers, and we monitor the blood pressure, the weight, the pulse, and the blood ox level of seniors. And there's the groups of seniors, we kind of, and it's all HIPAA approved and all that, but we keep kind of records on them. It's all computerized, so once all of their vitals are taken, it's then sent via internet, it's all secure and all that, to a nurse practitioner.
Oh.
She looks at them and says, okay, this one's good, this one's good. Oh, wait a minute, we have a problem here. And then we follow it up with either getting this individual to a medical facility. I can't begin to tell you stories that we've had. One up in Carbondale a couple weeks ago, there was a gentleman who came in and his levels were off from a couple of weeks before. And he kept saying, well, I think it's my medication, it's this and that. Long story short, we ended up connecting him with his physician, who then connected him with, I think, a neurologist, and it ended up that he had a brain bleed.
Oh.
Didn't know it, wasn't picked up on
Would
any
not have been
test prior to
discovered
that.
were it not for this.
And exactly right. And his doctor said if it wasn't for the program, he wouldn't be around today.
Yeah.
And now he's back at the Senior Citizen Center, doing his thing.
You mentioned the volunteers from the university, for instance. Do you depend a lot on volunteers?
Oh, that's our entire operation is volunteers. We have a very small staff. And we have volunteers who, as we have our Rome and TIPS volunteers. We have volunteers in our education department. We have a group of seniors who go out on a regular basis, and they're meeting with the young kids, like they're meeting with the 4, 5, 6, 7-year-olds, and they're identified as high-risk kids in the schools who are having trouble reading.
Yes.
And the seniors will sit down, take them out of, aside from class, read to them, and then teach them how to read.
That's great.
It really is, and it's a dual purpose. It's helping the kids, but it's also helping the senior become more engaged in
And
activity.
they've got a purpose.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
It's really, that's I have to say, that's one of my favorite programs. I love to go out and see that. But we have a group, I think we have about 50, I think it's up to 50 seniors that are going out on a regular basis. It's not just they once and done. They go out like 2 or 3 times during the week to the classrooms.
Yeah. I want to get back to that analysis that the organization did, which gave you such high ratings.
Yep.
Because people that are donating to United Way want to know that the bulk of that dollar is going to those services. What is your rate?
Our rate right now, and I'm glad you reminded me of that. Our rate right now is, depending upon the year, is anywhere between 14 and 15 cents on the dollar. That's our administrative cost. That helps us put. That's it. That helps us put the lights on and whatnot. And people say, well, how in God's name could you do that? The reason we're able to do that is we have individuals out there, again, volunteers, businesses and community members who donate printing services to us or donate. I mentioned Lamar Outdoor. All of the billboard. If you ever see the United Way logo on anything in this area, Lamar donates that to us.
That's wonderful.
Radio, TV, newspaper, the same thing. Scranton Times is very good to us as time goes on. So we're able to do that because of the volunteers that come that join us in this.
I'm
effort.
tempted to go back to my original question, though, about Lackawanna and Wayne.
Oh yeah.
Because I think of Lackawanna as a little bit more population density, and Wayne a little bit more rural.
Well,
but you say there's a lot of similarities.
There are a lot of similarities in program, but there's also a vast amount of differences, and the biggest difference is the rural nature of Wayne County.
And by the way, they just kicked off their campaign a week or so ago.
Oh, that was us. Yeah, we were
Right,
up there.
right.
we were up at the TikTok.
Do you have different dates for the campaign?
We do. We no, the campaigns. Well, the campaigns vary by 1 week. Like we kick off in Lackawanna County 1 week, and then we kick off the next week in Wayne County. And I have to say, I absolutely love going up to the Wayne County community. It is such a neighborhood, community-oriented place. The differences up there, the differences are basically like in one of the things we don't do in Lackawanna County, like we don't fund like volunteer fire departments, we don't fund libraries and stuff like that, because there are a lot of city taxes, government programs and stuff that will pay for that. You go up in Wayne County and it's all volunteer fire department.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So what we will do, not we, but we have a group of volunteers that are the same in Lackawanna as we have in Lackawanna. We have a similar group in Wayne County. And they're all made up of Wayne County citizens who will sit around the table and say, okay, here's the proposals from the agencies, what is needed in our community. And again, one thing that you wouldn't see happen, I don't think, in Lackawanna County, but happened in Wayne, we bought, and I wish I knew the technical term for this, but we bought this suit for a fire department up there. And basically what it was for flooding. If they had to go out and save someone whose car was in, they put this suit on, and they're
so it's a special turnout gear to deal with that
Yep.
type of emergency.
So the other anecdotal story is that if you remember a year or so ago, there was the big flooding up in Wayne County.
Yeah.
They had well, we approved the grant on a Monday. Well, no, we approved the grant. The suit arrived on a Monday. That Wednesday, this flooding happened, and one of the firemen literally took it out of the package, put the thing on, and was able to go out in the middle of this flooded area and bring the guy in. And like 2 days later, we get a picture and a big letter of thanks from the individually saved, plus the...
Talk about good timing.
Well, and you know what, David, and I don't want to sound Pollyanna, but that's what makes the job worth it.
Sure.
You hear those kind of stories, and you hear the guy in Carbondale with the brain bleed, and you go to the elementary schools or the grade schools and see these kids that are learning how to read, and it's like, you walk away saying, okay, this is what life's all about.
And now it makes more sense that United Way organizations, and you may be watching in Luzerne County, and obviously a separate organization there, but as close as Lackawanna and Luzerne are, the needs may differ.
They do. And again, to get a little bit more global, and that again, it's you asked the best questions because you've been around. We've been doing this for so long. One of the things that I love about the United Way is that all of the United Ways in the country are connected by the name United Way.
Yes, right.
And we're connected by certain standards that we have to meet. That we have to be accountable to the community, and we have to. There's certain guidelines about fundraising that we should do. But when you then break it down to the community level, the needs in Luzerne County, like you will go 20 miles across the border, and you may see a whole different organization than you will see in Lackawanna County, only because the needs in Luzerne County are a little bit different than they are in Lackawanna County. And just like with Wayne, the same thing. In Wayne County, the needs are different in Wayne than they would be in Scranton. So, I mean, and I love that flexibility of the organization.
I think it would be counterproductive if they were too big.
Well, and not only too big, but we've seen, and I won't name any, but we see organizations that are run nationally, that come out of some national headquarters. And the national headquarters in, Upper Slobovia somewhere, I always use that term, will say, this is what you have to do in Scranton. Well, how do they know
that fits?
That fits in here. We are, because we're a volunteer organization, run organization, the volunteers are in the community every single day. They know what's going on. They see what's going on. We interact with other agencies all the time. We are constantly doing studies and needs assessments and surveys in the community to find out what's needed so that we can keep up with what's happening here, not necessarily what's happening 50 miles away.
So even if you're not financially linked with an organization providing service here, you're still dealing with them to see how that fits in
Oh,
your
yes,
role.
exactly. We have, well, again, and I mentioned the Area Agency on Aging. We have a great partnership with Dr. Thomas and the Wright Center. That they're building that new clinic down here on South Washington Avenue. We're now looking at, okay, how can United Way now partner with more healthcare organizations, and the dental needs out there are phenomenal. And I know Scranton Primary Health is doing a phenomenal job with they have a free dental clinic there, but they're being overrun. So there's going to be need for more.
The demand is too high.
It definitely is. And I think as the population gets older, you're going to see the needs change even more. What I always say is that like senior citizen centers, and that's part of the
they're now active adults.
Active adult centers.
Older active.
Well, back in the day, I mean, you went to a senior citizen center and you were very happy to play bingo and hook rugs and do quilting, right? I mean, that was my grandmother.
That's the way it was, sure.
But now you're not, hey, I'm getting of that vintage. You're not going to get me in a place where I'm going to be playing bingo. I want to go out and I want to do photography, and I want to, maybe do some art. I want to do some volunteer work, and maybe I want to go kayaking. So we have to look at changing the programming.
As you said, that's an ongoing probe to watch as things change. And I'm so glad that you are keeping up with things, and again, doing it at a rate where the people that donate to United Way know that money's going where it's supposed to. So Gary, my congratulations to
thank you
again on a job well done and a job that continues. Gary Drippett from United Way.
Always a pleasure with you.
Thank you so much for joining us. Mark McGlory, thank you for doing your behind-the-scenes work. I'm David DeCosmo for ECTV Live. Till we see you next week, here's hoping all your news is good.